Thank you very much. That takes us to the question from Mr. Walberg to Mr. Carlson.
Marvin, neither you nor Brian Rooney has a legislative track record. What makes you the better choice for voters who are looking for a candidate without a track record?
Well, Tim, I do have a track record. I spent the last 35 years building a business, not a political career, Tim. I think that's the kind of background and experience we need to send to Washington. Not someone who's there that goes along to get along. Someone who will depend on making sure that their interests of those who support him are emphasized and pushed for rather than the good of the people. I believe that we need citizen patriots, those who've actually walked the walk, not simply talk the talk, Tim.
Thank you. Well, Marvin, I appreciate the life experience that you have. I wouldn't diminish that at all. I have 20 years of life experience in the private sector myself, leading churches as a minister, a division manager for a higher education institution, leading as the president of a private operating foundation, doing education impact and community impact issues with private money, not government money. I lived in my office in Washington on a sleeping bag air mattress, so I always remember that my home was back in the 7th District and not in Washington. I think there is a value in having a record in a multitude of areas, whether as a steel worker, which I was, whether as security police worker, which I was, whether as an administrator, whether as a pastor, whether as a president of a foundation, or whether as a legislator. I think this honorable service that Jefferson, Adams, Washington, and others would say is honorable, as long as you don't forget who you are, who sent you, and who you serve.
Thank you. Mr. Walberg, possible rebuttal. I'm sorry, Mr. Carl, I was looking at Carlson, sorry.
I'm not going to rebut myself.
Touche.
I may be old.
Mr. Carlson.
No rebuttal.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the questions from Mr. Carlson to Mr. Walberg.
Tim, in fiscal years 2000 and 2009, when you were our congressman, you had voted for a total of $34 million in earmark spending here in the district. And that's even when you campaigned against earmarks in your election bid. Do you still support earmark spending? And can you explain why you broke your promise to the people?
Well, first of all, I didn't break my promise to the people. I said very clearly, Marvin, that I would not be blackmailed for an earmark that affected this district with dollars that this district sent to Washington, generally and voluntarily. Transportation issue that was already referred to. There were transportation issues that we deserved in road and bridge projects, just like any other part of the county or the country. I would fight for those. There were aviation projects for the Air National Guard in Battle Creek and the parallel runway widening that was necessary for their new mission and other projects there. I supported some earmarks that were justified with dollars that we paid to have those jobs done. But I also said I would never be blackmailed in supporting massive abuse of taxpayers' budgets simply because I had an earmark in a bill. The transportation budget with 9,000 earmarks, pork barrel earmarks, including the bridge to nowhere, the record will show that even though my earmark was in there and it ultimately passed and the project is completed, I did not vote for that and honored my commitment to my constituents to never be blackmailed to vote for pork just because I had a good project in a budget.
Possible rebuttal by Mr. Carlson.
Well, you know, during your period of time, Tim, there was a deficit. You said you've never voted for a tax increase, but by voting for $34 million and many other earmarks that you had a quid pro quo with others in your in the House of Representatives, did you in effect vote the tax increase? Because we simply didn't have that $34 million available to spend, Tim.
That $34 million, and you would have to be specific on what those were if we're taking your word at it, but the $34 million was sent by our taxpayers. And no, it is not a tax increase. I've never voted for a tax increase. The record will show, and the Citizens for Tax Reform, Americans Taxpayers Union, and others who endorsed me strongly still have me rated amongst the highest members of Congress for my opposition to and support of the taxpayer opposition to tax increases. Know that is a fact, and to check with them, you'll find out that that is truth.
Well, Tim, you know.
Thank you. No chance to rebut the rebutter's rebuttal. You have rebuttals after the next question.